Hi and welcome. I'm Dave Mooney and I'm just going to give you a basic demo of private access, which is part of Microsoft's new global secure access feature. That's part of Entra ID. It's currently in preview. It's only going to be a basic demo, but hopefully you'll see something that interests you. So just a bit of background. Azure AD is now called Entra ID, so that was just a name change that was announced recently. But as well as that, what was announced too was a new feature called Global Secure Access, which is part of Entra ID. And that's currently in preview, and it has two main elements to it: internet access and private access. And we're going to look at private access today at a basic level. And private access really is there as Microsoft's move into Security Service Edge, and the aim of it is to help organizations to move towards an identity-centric approach to zero trust network access. Unlike a VPN, it uses per app tunnels, or like a traditional VPN anyway. And those tunnels and the access to the applications or resources behind them is governed by conditional access rules, and it's also continuously evaluated too. And I think the benefit for organizations is really that it helps you to overcome those barriers towards adopting a cloud native approach to your Windows management. So just having Windows devices that are cloud joined only, they're not connected via VPN to any network, they're not part of on-prem AD, and perhaps they're just running in the cloud like Windows 365 too. I think that this is an extra piece of that jigsaw in terms of helping organizations adopt that approach. And I think the benefit of doing that is from an end user experience, better performance, especially when we talk about hybrid working, but also just makes management so much easier too. So for the purposes of this quick demo, I've set up a little lab network with a couple of virtual servers in. The first one's the one that runs the app proxy connector, and it's also running a web server and a file share too, which we'll just use to demonstrate the quick access method in private access. And then I've got another server in there that's got RDP enabled, which we'll just use to demonstrate a different protocol and a different application with different access requirements and conditional access as well. Again, just for the demo, I've got a Windows 11 cloud PC running in Windows 365. It's just Entra ID joined, or Azure AD joined as it used to be called. Intune managed, not on-prem domain joined, no VPN on there, just to demonstrate a platform that's going to be used to connect to these different resources. And of course, in reality, those devices could be anywhere on the internet, and they could be accessing any kind of resource also anywhere on the internet too. So the beauty really of Entra ID Private Access is that you can really mix and match what resources you're accessing, how you're accessing them, what rules you need, and those resources could be in multiple locations. So here we are on the first of those two servers, and in Task Manager, just look at some services running, and you can see here that a Microsoft Azure AD application proxy connector is running, and the connector updater, which is the same services that run if you're just using app proxy back before private access was launched. We've also just created a quick file share too, so in this folder here, created some demo folders and files and shared them. Just show you that. So there we go, just sharing some files there, just to demonstrate the ability to access SMB resources using private access. And then we've also got a website running on here, just an IIS landing page. Obviously that's not new. App Proxy was able to do that before private access, but being able to look at different resources and potentially together as part of quick access is new, and we're going to demonstrate that in a minute. And there we go, just on the roles, you can see the web servers running and also file services too. So if I head over to Entra Admin Center and scroll down from the home page and find Private Access. It's part of Global Secure Access, which is in preview. I'm just going to check the connector on that first server is healthy and active, and it is there. I can see it, which is good. So that's the connector, the Azure App Proxy connector that was the service running on that first server. That's the connection to that server and that area of that network. And then I'm going to just look at the quick access configuration. So this is a quick way to get a couple of services running quickly. So I've got two there, SMB 445 and 80. So that's the file share and the web server. And then within that quick access application in private access, I've also created a conditional access rule. So what I want is, if anyone wants to access that that application, which in this case is a couple of different services, SMB on that server and that web server, then I want them to be required to use multi-factor authentication before they're allowed to connect to that. Over in our Windows 365 portal, I'm just going to spin up my Windows 11 cloud PC. And as I said before, this is just cloud joined. I'll just get rid of these little nag screens. And then another one. So this is just cloud joined. It's not on-prem joined. It's not got a VPN on. And we'll go over to company portal just to show that we've got the Global Secure Access application installed. So this is the client application for Windows 10 and 11. And that was just deployed through Intune. And you can see it here in the system tray with a green tick and obviously some menu items there as too. So that's healthy. That's running on a Windows 11 device that's going to be used to connect to resources. And then just to demonstrate, I'll just run this dsreg command just to show you that, scroll up, that this device is indeed just Azure AD joined or Entra ID joined now and not domain joined. And just to show you, it's only got one network interface, and that's the one that's in Windows 365 in Microsoft cloudapp.net. So it doesn't have an interface in a VPN network. So if I just go over to my browser and try and navigate to the same local IP on that lab network for the server, the IIS server, I'm going to be presented with MFA. So I could create a conditional access rule that required MFA, and there I'm being presented with it. I've provided my MFA challenge response, and now I can access that web server. Again, nothing new particularly with that. We could do that with that proxy. But here, this is new. Now what I'll try and do is navigate to that SMB share on that server using the local IP in that target network. And because I've just satisfied the multi-factor authentication challenge, I'm not challenged again, but you can see there that I can see that share, and I can drill into it and open that sample file as I did before when I was actually on the server. Obviously it takes a couple of seconds, but there you go, that's the file. So just the two services there, the web service and SMB, connected from this Windows 365 PC, which is not on the same network. That's all fine and good, but it still feels quite like a traditional VPN. So what I'm going to do here in the Entra Admin Center is create a new enterprise application, which I'm going to use to connect to that RDP service on the second server, because I want to demonstrate that I can have a separate tunnel to a separate application with its own conditional access rules, rather than just a connection to a network. So here we go, connected with an application segment to 3389 on that server, so just that port on that second server. We'll still use the first server as the app proxy because it's in the same network segment, but then I'm going to create a conditional access rule for this enterprise application. Once I've assigned it, I'm just going to assign it to my test Windows 365 group here. Yeah, and then I'm going to create a conditional access rule. So this conditional access rule is going to be slightly stricter than the other one, so it's going to require not just MFA, but it's going to require the device that's connecting to the resource to be compliant. So just to demonstrate that, we can have different access requirements based on different applications that we're trying to target. So marking it as required, just going to turn that on, so it's going to enforce the policy. Okay, and that's done. So back over here on my Windows 11 PC in Windows 365, I'm just going to go back over to the company portal because what I've done here is deliberately make this device not compliant. So if I go over to the device in company portal, you can see here it's not compliant, and the reason is that device encryption is not turned on. So I've just created a policy that means that this device isn't compliant just for the demo. I can still access the web server and the SMB share as I could before because I haven't required compliance for those resources. I've just required MFA, which has already been satisfied. But if I try an RDP onto that second server now, so if I just put in the local IP on that target network of that second server, if we can get the IP right, here I'm challenged by Entra ID. I try and log in, but because this device is not compliant, it won't let me access that particular resource from this device at this moment because I'm not compliant. So let's assume that I've now fixed that problem. So I go over to company portal again and go back to the device. You can see now that the device is compliant. I've just simulated that by removing the compliance policy just for this test. And because the device is now compliant, if I again try an RDP onto that same server, I'm satisfying the conditional access rules. It allows me to get through to authentication, which I still have to do because that's still part of the RDP process, and I can successfully RDP onto that target server now. And there I am with a remote desktop session on that server via the local IP, via Entra ID Private Access, satisfied the conditional access rule. And that's really it for this basic demo. Just one part of it really, so there's a lot more you can do with private access, and you've also got internet access too as part of that global secure access feature in Entra ID. But being able to give users access to the right applications where they're working, using it as a tool in your toolkit to overcome hurdles to move into cloud native Windows devices that are just cloud joined, getting rid of those traditional VPNs and their associated costs and patching their VPN clients, and then supporting the wider sort of zero trust strategy of your organization, moving to identity centric, controlling access at a per application level and tunneling access per application, and then enforcing that conditional access, as well as evaluating that control all the time. This really helps with that, I think, and I also think it improves in end user experience too. So, just having the right access easily to the right resources without having to think about where they are, I think definitely will be valued by end users too. So I hope you enjoyed it. It's just a quick look at private access. If you did enjoy it, I'll try and produce some more videos in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye.